And then we have social media. So a statistic, 79% of marketers report success from using video on social media. Now, the alternative to this would be 21% don't report success. So it's a pretty overwhelming successful metric, or successful, fact, if you like, by wiseowl.com. And I think that there's definitely, in my perspective, there's a place for video in your social media campaign and toolkit. It's not something that you should use exclusively, and it's not something that you should just use once. You need to find a happy medium with it, because sometimes it can be quite difficult to produce, especially when you scale up your quality and your production value, which isn't the listicle. The listicle is something you can probably churn out quite easily. But yeah, you have to be realistic about how you can do video and when and what you promise your viewers. Because if you kind of, say this week, you're really inspired by me and Gemma in your marketing, and you go off and you think, right, I'm going to make lots of videos, and you make 4 videos and you put one out one day each next week, and then the next 2 months you do no videos. Your audience is going to be really disappointed. So it's just that it's got a place for it, but people do report massive success. Okay, and then the biggie. So email is something that a lot of people probably don't use as much as they think to use social media or improve their SEO, but email is overwhelmingly one of the most important marketing tools you can use, because it incorporates everything that I've been saying already, and it gets delivered straight into someone's inbox, which God knows we all have enough time to look at our inbox at the moment. And people also prefer to be contacted via email because it's just hyper personalized. So with that in mind, if you have a video in your email, it will increase your click-through rate. So once they've opened it, it will increase your click-through rate by up to 300%, and that's actually 200 to 300%. So it's a no-brainer really to have videos in your emails. However, you obviously have to tell them in the subject line that you're putting video in the email, and then even more so, if you say that you're going to put video in the subject line, then you actually have to put a video in the email itself. But that doesn't mean that you need to put the video within the embed it within the mail. Maybe it clicks off to your own web page, or it clicks through to your YouTube channel, or it clicks through to whatever you want to take people to, and from that point, yeah, it's up to you to keep them, basically, hopefully with more video content. And then the last thing, which is also about email, because I really do like this method of contacting people, like I said, people prefer email marketing above all else, but only 1 in 7 believe that more than half their emails are useful to them. So imagine if you can make a video which is going to increase conversion through to your website, that is genuinely useful, and you're using the platform that people want to see your content on. And that's where the listicle comes in, basically. The listicle is part of Google's content model. So this isn't stuff, I would love to say that I own this and that I thought up this of my own little brain, but this is tried and tested and endorsed by, the biggest search engine on the planet, one that we all kind of bow to the power to. And the model is called Hero Hub Hygiene, and it's also called Help. It originally called Hygiene, and it kind of made a lot more sense for today's presentation, and they call it Help now, on and off between that and hygiene, I think because they thought hygiene, people associated it too closely with cleanliness, but the principle is the same. So created, endorsed by Google. It's 3-tiered. It kind of is closely aligned with your funnel, with your awareness, with like your top line awareness consideration, and then actually calling people to action on your website. It's very useful for all marketing. So it's something that you can apply. I'll put a link in at the end of this presentation actually for where this Google Think with Google article is, because it's something that you should apply to all your content, really. You want your bigger stuff, you want your stuff that's run of the mill, and then you want all your little tidbits, listicle being one of those. So yeah, your hero is your big content, high production value. You'll put a lot of effort into those, and they'll probably cost a fair bit more of your budget than your other videos or your other content in general. The hub stuff is kind of middle of the road, consistent, regular content. It's still well produced, it's still well scripted, you think about it, but it's just probably doesn't cost as much, and it's not as wacky as your hub, as your hero, sorry. And then you've got your hygiene. So what is hygiene? Here's a list for you. It's evergreen, which means it can run whenever you want to show it. It's not seasonal. It's bite size. It's critically easy to produce, like almost by definition, it's easy to produce because, and I'll show you in a couple of minutes, you should be able to just rock up and go with your phone or with a nice camera if you're lucky to have one. It's consistent in how inconsistent it is, in that it doesn't really matter where you shoot it. It doesn't matter what time of day. You should have a good intro and outro that's fairly consistent, so your viewers know who's talking and that it's your brand. But everything in between, people will forgive you for it because of the rough and ready nature of these videos. It answers questions and it satisfies micro moments, which are all these, questions that people type into Google. Where is this? How do I do this? Top tips on, or should I do this? Do's and don'ts of that. How to find X, how to mend this. All of those things fall really nicely into this listicle, into a hygiene video. It's very responsive to trends and events, and the reason it can be responsive is because you can create it on the fly. So if something happens by the end of that day, arguably if you've got the time, or if somebody in your company has the time, you could make a video about it if you think that your audience would be interested. And that is crucial because it builds your relationship with your customers and your clients. It builds your trust, your authority, and your affinity. So the likelihood that they will that they're loyal and that they will recommend you to other people. It also shows that you're listening to what's going on in the world, and also that you're listening to your audience and your customers. And it shows you give a monkeys about things in general. It shows that you care enough that you're going to make a video that really doesn't kind of initially, it's not a sales pitch. It's not asking your audience to do something. It's not even launching a new product or talking about how great you are. It's just added value content, and that's why it's so important to have it as part of your strategy. So an example would be the listicle. Da, 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 drum roll. So this is the harmonious, click-seeking, attention-grabbing, impression-gaining, time-accruing compound of a list and an article, and just in video form. Again, this is something that you can do in imagery. Sorry, it's something that you can do in text, but I like video, so we're going to do it in video. And we're going to make one. I'm just going to look at your face to see how scared you all look. Yep, good. This is an introvert's nightmare, and I'm on the fence between introversion and extroversion, so you're just going to have to follow me on my extrovert path. So what we're going to do for the next 5-10 minutes or so is I'm going to show you how to build one. We're going to start the mechanism of one, and then at the end I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it afterwards. All right, first you have to write it. You're going to use your phone, and you're going to bring up a notes app, and you're also going to use the chat function with Zoom. We're going to get very technical, very tech specific on here. We've got Megan on hand to help out. She's going to pick all the best ones. And what we're going to do is we're going to make an intro, an elevator pitch, which if you don't know what that is, I'll go through it, and it's pretty good for your networking to know what that is. The top 5 FAQs, a call to action, and an outro. Then we're going to go through how to shoot it. And then we're going to give you, if we've got time, an opportunity to give shooting it a go. And then we're going to go through how to edit. I'm not going to ask you to edit in this session because you've only got half an hour, but I will show you how to edit it, and I'll take you through the kind of the fundamentals. It doesn't include everything because a listicle or hygiene video shouldn't be, it's not all singing or dancing. Does anybody notice what the 3 things in there that connects each different layer? Shout it at me.
Phone.
Yay, well done, Mark. Fantastic. There you go. It's your phone, which means you can do it on your phone. And everybody's got a phone. If you're using phone for your Zoom, then maybe you get this one off. But if anyone else, if you're using your laptop, then do try and give this a go. Alrighty. So this is what we're going to go through. And the title will be Top 5 FAQs we get asked at Ashford Kent Digital Meetup. So it's something that you all know about. It's probably questions that you've asked the team yourself in the past anyway. So it shouldn't be too difficult to come up with a few examples. So like I said, please use the Zoom chat function. I'd like you to give me suggestions for each step. Now you're thinking on your feet, maybe you just want to give a couple of lines. Megan is going to field them, and if we don't get any contributions, we've got one that we made earlier. So please do contribute, and I'll go through what you need to say. So your intro, whilst I'm talking, you can think about it and add stuff to the chat. Your intro is something like, hi, I'm Maddie. I'm a video producer for Fides Films, and today I'm here to talk to you about listicles. Short and simple. Then we've got my elevator pitch, and that is where I say, Fides Films is a video production company, and it serves mostly businesses. And the reason why it's different is because I do data analysis as well as everything else, for example. Then you've got your top 5 FAQs and answers, which would be, you know, for Kent Digital Meetup, it would be something like, how long does it last? How much does it cost? That kind of stuff. You've got your call to action, which would be, join us at the next one. Want to see you there. And then an outro would be something like, thanks so much for watching, and see you next time. Okay, so it's really simple stuff. We've all got this in our brains. So without further ado, I'd like you to write it. So see if I can get some contributions. Megan, I'm not sure if you're getting any at the moment, but I'll just give it maybe a minute or so, so people can contribute a few more things. The elevator pitch is really important if you do any networking, because it's basically how to describe what you do and who you're for and why you're different in, you know, the time it takes you to get into an elevator and out of an elevator with somebody. Let me see if I can bring my chat function up. It's a meatball pizza. Brilliant. Like that. The inclusivity of it. Okay, let's move on. Oh, not yet. I probably need to actually refresh this. So I'm going to go back to my face for a second. I'm going to refresh this whilst Megan puts in some of the answers. Looking good. And then I'm just going to fill in the call to action and outro that we'd prepared earlier. These listicles, I mean, top 5 FAQs is probably one of the easiest things you can have. You can make, because you know all these things off the top of your head. As a business owner, as an individual, you know the kind of questions you get asked. And if you're in a company where a lot of your sales come through phones and stuff like that, so maybe it's a bigger company, it's actually a really good way of siphoning off a lot of the pressure that maybe your call center or something like that have, because you're answering all those questions on the website already. You can put it in your VoIP message if you want to, and you might find that you can just direct people on, you know, on the front page of your website to say, here's a video with our top 5 FAQs. People love watching videos these days. It's a way that they expect to consume information. So it's a good one to start off with. Okay. So I think we have 5 questions, and Megan is doing a sterling job of adding the answers to them. Does anybody at this point have any questions?
I think it'd be fun to see what you do, especially doing it live with everybody watching.
Oh, you're going to do it. That's the fun of it. That's the fun of it.
I can't wait to see the edit live. That's brave.
Oh no, I'm not. Oh no, I'm not doing that bit either. Because, well, I would do if you want me to go on for another half an hour or so. I'd be more than happy to do an edit live. But I don't think. Maybe I'll do a.
We can all just watch you in the background. You can
there we go.
multitask.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, absolutely. I'll busy away.
We'll just watch it, and then at the end we can watch it.
There's
There's
nothing more interesting than watching someone just do a video edit live.
That's so true.
I'll be trying to present and there'll just be you in the corner with panic on your face because you've lost some content or something and you've got to show it at the end.
Yeah. I was, do you know what? I was thinking about it and I thought, am I setting myself up too much to do that? And I also wanted to listen to your talk, Gemma. Which is my get out. But yeah. It would be that would be seriously something. Okay.
I actually did it. When we did our boot camp up in London before lockdown. Our film studies student that's working with us, I said to her, right, we're going to collect content from people as they come back from their break. You've got to take it and you've got to edit it, and you've got 20 minutes because then I'm going to show it. And actually she did very well, but it was serious pressure.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's something that you can just take your time over. I think editing is something where you can get so specific as well. There's a process to more kind of a higher production of your hero or your hub content where you'd usually shoot stuff and then you'd make what's called an assembly edit, and you'd put that all together, and it's just you pick out chunks of the information that you need and you put it all on one timeline and you look through it to make sure that you're not missing anything. But I get into the nitty-gritty right from the beginning, and that's like my downfall. That means that an edit sometimes can take me, a lot longer, or my headache. I've got a headache from it, but there we go. Okay, Megan, are we done? Are you done?
I think so, yeah. I've done the best I can.
Work, that girl. Well done, well done. Okay, I'm going to go back to presenting this. So, can everyone see that? Not yet.
Nope.
Bear with. Okay, there we go.
Now we can.
Cracking. There we go. So that was what we did. Intro, elevator pitch, FAQs and answers, call to action and outro. And this is what it might look like. Simplest thing. We built that in less than maybe 10 minutes max. We'd already had the intro and outro, but as you'll see, the intro and outro is something that it's not that scientific, it's very easy to write. Well done, team. Okay, so I'm going to go through how you shoot something now. So we're going to park the script for now, and then we're going to go through how you shoot something. And then everyone's going to have a bit of a go at shooting a film, not someone. All right, so first of all, everyone pick up your phones if you've got a phone in your hand that you're not using for your Zoom. I want to see him on the camera. Show me your phone. Okay. So you're going to flip it rather than using the back camera, which arguably has the best megapixel camera. You're going to use the front camera. So you're going to use that one right there. So you're going to hold it up like you're doing a selfie, basically. Then you're going to do it in landscape. Now, this is down to preference, and it's also down to the platform that you're using to publish your content. But in my opinion, portrait is the poor cousin of landscape. So let's just go with landscape just to appease me for now. And you want to turn it around so that you can navigate the record button with your right or left hand, depending on what's your strong hand. Then you want to extend it. So you want to push your arm out in front of you so that you're not giving yourself a chin shot, you're actually shooting far in front of your face. Then you want to give space. So let's not, so if I go back to, I won't show you me, but let's not position yourself in the middle of the screen. Let's position yourself slightly to the left or to the right, depending on which hand you're using. And then sound. Make sure that your hand isn't blocking the microphone. And make sure that you're in a place where you know that there's going to be no kids running around, that there's no traffic outside, there's no wind. These tiny little things, if they're annoying you from a sound perspective, they're going to annoy your viewers. You can always watch it back, of course, and check your sound, and I'd recommend you do that. And then lastly, to make this all easier for you in the edit, you want to edit it in order. So you don't want to do your outro and your intro at the same time and then your FAQs backwards just for laughs. You want to make sure that you're shooting everything in order, because that means when you import it into your computer, or when you're editing it on your phone, which I'll give you a few tips about in a minute, you're just dragging them in order. And then I would actually go through and curate all your clips and delete the ones you don't want. So when you're pulling it in to your editing app, it's a lot easier to know which ones you want, rather than having 20 files in front of you and you only need the 5, and then you have to pull everything in and delete it all. Delete it all in your Photos app, and then when you go to your editing app, you can make it a lot easier for yourself. And that's called editing in camera, which honestly makes life so much easier. Okay, Megan, whilst this is on screen, would you mind copying and pasting, unless you've already done it and I just shared beforehand?
No, I'll do it.
Yeah, amazing,
yeah.
Thank you. And to the next slide. Perfecto. So does anyone have any questions? So I'll just go through it whilst I'm on here. So you don't want to be doing it like this, even though it's a nicer camera. You want to flip it so it's how you're normally looking at it. You want to split it into landscape. You want to make sure that your arm is extended so that you're not getting all the chins, and maybe a bit higher as well. You want to make sure that you've got space. So maybe if I'm shooting over here, I've got some space so that you kind of look like this composition, or this composition, not like this. You want to make sure that the sound is clear, and then you want to do it in order. All right. I see that. Oh, that's hilarious. You should thank him. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Bear with. Already? So this is your script. If you're shy, you can turn off your video and your mic if you don't want anyone to see what you're doing. If you're born in November, December, you're going to take Q&A 1, which is it accessible? Let me get my little pointer up. Yeah, let me see the pointer. Is it accessible? Is Q&A 1. January and February, you're going to take this one. So you're going to say the question and the answer. March and April, births, number 3. May and June, number 4. July and August, number 5. And then if you're born in September and October, you can pick your favourite. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go off and film that, starting now.
So are we doing the whole thing?
No, just do your question,
the
your
Q&A
question. Yeah. So, for example, is it accessible? We try to make it as accessible as possible, repeating the questions, etc., and things like that. So it could be like you want it to last no longer than maybe 10 seconds. Does anyone have any questions? Is anyone squirming? No? Fab. All right, crack on. Okay, I've just done mine. We've got about 2 minutes to go.
I've done mine, realised my glasses were wonky.
Amazing. That's always a worry.
Yeah.
I've been tempted to buy a series of silly hats just to wear them for when I do my video training.
Oh, you should. It would entertain. Or funny glasses.
Oh, maybe a branded baseball cap.
Yeah, you could change it up.
And every time you go between what you're sharing and your own face, you can be wearing something slightly different and see who cottons on.
We should have like the little selfie sticks you can do when you do your own like photo shoot. You should have them and just like put individual words up on the screen.
I've got a tripod somewhere for mobile phones and I can't find the actual tripod somewhere in my room.
It's in a safe space, Ray.
Yeah, I've got a massive one in here as well, but I'm not going to plug that one in.
Okay, I'm going to give y'all 30 more seconds. I think that's an important point actually, is that this is all just basically using your phone and your arm. But if you have other stuff, like you want to get yourself a really cheapo iPhone holder or phone holder from Amazon and attach it to a tripod, you know, you could get yourself some kit for like 20 quid or less, and it just does up the quality because it's static and it's nice to have a gadget.
There's an interesting question come through the chat, Maddie. From Nick. Check it out.
Not the landscape gardener one. No. I've done a few that are all screen grab because I'm talking tech. How important is personal presence on the video? Not important if that's not part of your brand, I would say. So it depends on what you want your brand to be about. So probably have a good think about that before you start doing any video. You've probably got a good idea about that already from any other content that you use. If you look at what Aaron does in his 6.2 videos, for example, his brand is, well, his video brand is a lot his face, right, and the energy that he brings. So you wouldn't expect them to see a video which is just which is just a screenshot of, you know, or Aaron screen sharing basically. However, if you do want to do something that is more like tech based and you don't necessarily feel like either you want your face in it or you don't need your face in it, then don't have to, not a problem.
I guess a how-to video would need a how-to video. You could do a screen share, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And definitely.
Just on that note, I mean, for certain things, especially like if I'm learning some new like programming language or something like that, a lot of videos that I watch on YouTube are literally just screen shares. Basically, you don't even see the person's face. No. And you know, I've gone through a whole series just watching effectively PowerPoint presentations.
It does muddy the water a little bit. My other half actually said to me, he's watching Final Fantasy videos at the moment, but he follows this one particular person who just plays through the game and doesn't put anything else on it. It's you just watching the game, but you're watching the game through YouTube. And that there's it serves different. Some people love that they've got a little person in the side and they're wearing something freaky and, you know, they're playing games and shouting at the screen. And then some people absolutely don't need that. So the great thing about YouTube, for example, and any video platform that you use that's set up for it, so like not Dropbox, but you're using Vimeo or YouTube or Wistia. The great thing about those platforms is that they give you analytics, so you can always test it to a certain degree. So you can, especially if you're doing it in email, it's a controlled environment where you can send out an email in one kind of with your face in it, and you can send out an email with a video without your face in it and see which one gets more interaction. And then if you've done that after 5 to 10 videos or even up to 3 to 5 videos, you'll start to see a trend and you can choose which one works best for your audience. Alrighty. Without further ado, let us continue. Well done. So what I'm going to do now is thank you for going off and doing that. And if you didn't do it, be sneaky and do it this evening. Just make sure you're wearing the same t-shirt and send it to us. I'll give you the details for that at the end. But the last part of the process is your edit. Now, to make this as easy and accessible as possible, and also to give that listicle hygiene video vibe, you can use iMovie or Filmmaker Pro. iMovie for Apple phones, and then Filmmaker Pro for Android. And you might also have come across already some apps that you already have or that you've heard about that are good. Look up. There's an endless amount of reviews if you type into Google. And they'll set you back maximum £15. The vast majority of them are free, especially if you have iMovie, because Apple's just kind of set up for the creative in that way. So, and here are the stages that I would recommend you go through. I mean, editing can be quite heavily process based, but I think it's important not to overwhelm yourself. It is important to understand that there are 3 elements to making a video. You've got to make sure you're getting the content scripted right. You've got to make sure you're shooting it right. And then you do have to make sure you're editing it right. So you have to be in the right frame of mind when you want to go and make a video. But these 6 stages will just make sure that, you know, you've got it down. So import, again, before you import, go through your gallery, delete all the stuff you don't need, make sure that you aren't deleting the wrong ones or the right ones, so that when you go into iMovie or Filmmaker Pro, actually all you need to do is import, you know, the last 5 things that you shot. Then you trim it. So you want to leave about 3 to 5 seconds before you start recording. 3 to 5 seconds before you start speaking after you started recording. So you press the record button, then you leave 3 to 5 seconds, and then you start to record, and then you do exactly the same at the end, just in case your phone isn't quite keeping up or something happens or you forget your line or whatever you wanted to say, and then you trim that when you're in the edit. Then you want to think about titles. The great thing about both these apps and then other programs is that they've got like a myriad of titles for free. They won't necessarily be your brand font unless you do work with Google Fonts or something like that. But they inevitably have Arial, Helvetica, that kind of thing. So you just make some titles that stand out. You can change the color, give it a shadow, you know, make it swipe in, do what you like. Then you want to choose a music track. I put a link at the end to the YouTube music archive, which basically is free access. Some of them you do have to put the reference or the source, but I would actually choose not to use those ones just because it's too much faff and where do I put it. So you just choose the right music track, then you play it back to make sure that it all works, and then you export it. And you can either export it straight to the platform that you want to send it to, or you can export it to your phone and then use it later. This is what iMovie looks like. So you have your titles, your trim, you do that with here, and this is very similar interface to actually what iMovie looks like on a Mac laptop as well. And then you can add your music down here, which is cute, and it's got all your little things that you can do up here. And then you've got, this is what it looks like, Filmmaker Pro. It's got all these aspects here down the side. Again, it's still got music, titles, trim. You do your transitions between here, you add new footage, you play it back, you download it to something else. It's all got the same functionality, whatever kind of phone you've got. Then these are my top tips. I'm not going to run through them all, but I'll pick out some really important ones. Like I said earlier, I much prefer landscape, but I think it's important that you know what platform you're using it for. And if you need to change it up and do it a profile, or even change the, I think with both of these apps, actually, you can change the aspect ratio 1:1 or 4:5 or 16:9, whatever you want. Shoot it in order. This is something that I actually foul of quite a lot, is I download an app, it's got lots of buttons and gadgets, and I play with it loads when I'm actually trying to seriously use it, and then I play with it loads. Actually, shoot your dog, or no, not shoot, film your dog, don't shoot your dog. Film your dog, film your cat, film you making a cup of tea, and then try and play with the app that way first. Make sure you've got battery and memory on your phone. Try and choose just one music track that will fit the length of your piece. Don't forget to put your logo in at the beginning and the end, and it's all important to review it. And most platforms these days, you can put the subtitles on afterwards, and I absolutely would recommend you do that too. So this is where the editing bit comes in. 6.2 has kindly offered for the first 5 people who send their FAQ and answer video file to Megan that you will get promoted in their FAQ video on this very subject through their own page and through KDM. So if you send your file that you shot, hopefully about 10 minutes ago, send it through to Megan and you'll be featured in their top 5 FAQs video. And if you want to take full advantage, you could even create your own listicle video for your own company and they will promote that on LinkedIn as well, as will I. And remember, if you put video in the subject line, there's a higher chance that Megan will actually open it. Here are the links I mentioned earlier, and I'll share this. I don't know how we would usually share these slideshows, but you can have this deck, link to the audio library, a link to Canva, where you can make lots of nice titles if you just wanted to import one rather than make one in an app. And then this is the article I was talking about scheduling your content. So that's me. This is where you can find me. Thanks very much. Bish bash bosh.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We should all turn our microphones on and just clap. I think that's appropriate.
Thank you so much. I've gone very red.
Right, we are a little over time, so we'll do a quick Q&A and then we'll all nip off and have a break. Madeline, thank you so much for that talk. That was excellent.
Whistle stop tour.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that it was very kind of practical in, you know, often you can get people saying, oh yeah, do video, but then people are like, how? And you're like, well, press the record button, but there's a little bit more than just pressing the record button and starting to talk, isn't there? And kind of from your perspective, how many of these kind of listicle videos and this kind of style should you be, I don't know, aiming to produce in a week, in a month, or, you know, is there a sweet spot?
I think it all depends on what you can actually sustain. It's all about sustainability. If you can create, you've seen that we were able to build, okay, it was a group exercise, but I'm pretty confident that within an hour you'd be able to script and shoot a film, and then you probably take maybe about half an hour to an hour editing it as well, because you're going to get really like nitty gritty in with the editing. So give it a couple of hours. So the answer is, when do you have 2 hours free in a week, and can you say that that's going to be on my marketing time for this particular video, or can you ask one person to do one bit and one person to do another bit? Because it has to be, you have to be able to do it continuously. There's no point in starting video if you don't think that you can do it. If you say like, I'm going to do 5 a week, 1 a day, that's you're committing to that as your style. That's what you're saying. And your audience will love you for it, because they love consistent content, and they love, you know, we're so nosy and curious, and they'll love to see what you do. And it's great for behind the scenes stuff as well as, you know, more kind of front of house stuff. But actually, if you're going to do 5 videos a week, that's the only type of marketing you'll probably be able to do, unless you have somebody who comes in to do it for you. So I would recommend trying to do 1 every couple of weeks. Do that consistently, see if it works, test it, and then if it does, then try and do 1 every week. And don't max yourself out. That's probably enough, unless you feel that it really has, you know, that return for you.
Excellent. Over to, normally I point at people in the crowd, but I'm just pointing at my screen. You.
Is everyone a bit overwhelmed? It's all a bit, I do kind of go detail quite without a filter.
So have you got examples of the sort of more rapid fire content that people can be doing? Because 2 hours is enough on anyone's marketing agenda. Absolutely. So without even committing to everything else, it's really interesting that you point that out, because I do think a lot of people, they do have this perception that you can just, well, we'll just film it and we'll just chuck it up.
Yeah.
Even
I mean, it will get quicker. You know, the more you do it, the quicker you'll get, and you might find that you just set up with the same background every time. I don't know, Erin, how long does it take you to make one of your videos, would you say?
So
and you do that, but you do that with a proper camera, right?
Yeah, and I edit in like Premiere. I could easily, from scripting, filming, and then editing, easily kind of 4 hours to get, I don't know, like if I was doing a 15-minute video or something like that, you know. But I my problem is perfectionism, and as a photographer I kind of want a certain look for thing and that sort of stuff. So but yeah, the last one that I put out, which was literally a screen grab, still took me a good hour and a half to 2 hours. That was, you know, it had already been recorded, but still cutting it down, and then the music and top and tailing it. But you know, I see there's a lot of really good content out there, which is almost just kind of
Mark. Is that Mark? Who was that?
That did sound like Mark, didn't it?
He's regretting the t-shirt again.
No, it wasn't.
Was it not?
It wasn't Mark. It was my other half talking to the puppy.
Oh, right.
I told you we can't be in the same room when we're doing these things.
It was perfect timing.
Blame Mark.
Yeah, it was
blame
perfect
Mark.
timing. Brilliant.
It was perfect timing, I must say.
Yeah.
This is why I keep going on mute.
Like I said, there is some fantastic content out there, which, you know, is really short and like you say, is consistent in its inconsistency. I really like that. I think that's a really good
I mean, you kind of want to front it and end it with the same thing. That's why it's important to put your logo on there. But the thing is that when you start, fundamentally you can always delete it. So when we all put our, you know, video, turned our video off a second ago, and we all went and shot something, no one has to see that again. So you give it a go, have a play, and then even when you load it up, if you're loading it up onto a YouTube channel which is in its infancy, or a following of just a few followers on LinkedIn, or even if you have lots of followers on LinkedIn and you put it up, the response you'll get from making a video is huge. Like, it's really self-conscious, especially when your face is in it. Making video, it's a creative thing, so you can get really self-conscious about it, but people will always admire you because they always wish they could do it. You're really, like, you're going to be well ahead of the curve, because even though there's all these statistics about how video will be 80% of consumer media by, you know, all of that kind of stuff, and how we're saturated with video, actually not that many people that you know are making it. So you can really stand out on certain platforms, especially when it's more kind of, it's not cat videos, it's specific content that has been well written and just had a little bit of time put into the edit. I'm just seeing a question here from Kasha about how to improve the quality of audio. So Rode, which I will type, and I know Gary, who I can see in the room, he has one of these. Rode do this fantastic little mic, which actually has an audio jack that fits your phone. So on a camera, an audio jack has like 3 black lines on it, and on a phone it has 2 black lines. And Rode, this smart lav, I think it's less than, Gary, can you remember how much they are? It's less than 50 quid, I'm pretty sure. And I know that seems like a lot of money, so maybe it's something that you invest in, you know. Exactly.
Is it like this?
It is. Hey, there you go. Nice.
Yeah, because this is off my squeaky earphones. And I've always wondered why this has got 3 lines, because I wonder about those sorts of things.
One has 3 and one has 2. I'm pretty sure the camera has 3, and your phone will just need the 2. But the smart lav is made for your phone. Basically, it's not. You have to get an adapter if you want to use it for a camera. That's it, Ray. Ray's got one. So I would invest in that if you want to make good audio, because I feel that as well. It's got all the, or just go to Ray. Ray's got all the, he's got all
I
the
bought it a
gadgets.
couple of weeks ago.
There you go, nice one.
And we're dishing up now. So if you want to calm down.
Someone's dishing up. Dal, you got dinner? Who's having dinner? Can we have some?
No, I've had dinner already. That wasn't me.
Oh, it wasn't you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was me. That would be me.
Lovely.
Cool. If that's everything, then we'll break for 15 minutes. So that takes us up to 10 to 8. If everyone's still good for time, especially you, Gemma. Sorry, we are running a little bit behind. We'll roll on to your talk. So we'll say we meet back here at 10 to.
I've got 4 videos already, by the way.
Got 4 videos. Hey, awesome.
Dale's
Awesome.
done it. Dale's done
Well
2.
done, Dale. Well done.
Well done too. Fantastic. Excellent. Thanks for that, guys. Yeah, we'll put them all together, and yeah, it'll be a nice little KDM community video.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. That makes it sound. Yeah. That sounds good.
It's a fantastic
makes
idea.
It sound like it's like to help people.
There, Maddie.
I know. I was thinking, I'm not going to be very PC whatever I say, so I'm just not going to say it.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. So yeah, I think it'll be quite nice.
You might even get me on video now, Aaron.
Oh yes, Megan. It's gonna happen.
Normally I'm like, no, it's not happening.
This is all orchestrated just for that. Yeah.
Maddie's convinced me. I've made 2 scripts now, so I'm there.
Aaron, you can pay me later.
We'll pay you with community hugs.
Sure.
Socially distant hugs.
Yeah, like that. That's good.
Virtual hugs.
Fantastic.
Nick,
cool.
Nick's keeping his distance. He's just like,
Yeah.
Nick likes to wake up 4 times in the night panicking. So, and I say likes completely wrongly.
No.
Oh, excellent. Right. We'll kick off. Gemma, if you're good at 10 to do your talk.
Yeah, sounds good.
Excellent. All right. So I'll be back shortly before then. I'm going to mute myself, and everyone, feel free to catch up and that sort of thing. Did anyone actually have any pizzas? And anyone buy pizza? You got pizza?
I had a piece of lunch. I have to admit, so last night I had a buy one get one free pizza.
Oh, nice.
So I had the free one. Well, did I have the free one last night? That's kind of existential. I don't know.
Which one was more expensive, Nick?
The 2 pizzas that were abandoned on my doorstep. By the time I opened the door, the delivery person was gone.
Yeah.
It's your reputation, Nick.
Well, they know they're getting tips no matter what, so they're gone. Yeah. So I had a chicken tikka, onion, and hot sauce pizza.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
From, is that from like one of the big brands, or like Domino's, or?
I believe it was from Sandwich Pizza and Kebab.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Nice and local, Nick.
That sounded like a list of foods. Sandwich. Pizza,
Yeah.
Right, it's pizza and kebab.
In Sandwich.
The town of Sandwich. Yes.
Yeah. That is one of the things I've always sort of wondered, not specifically about sandwich pizza and kebab, but this blending of pizza and kebab. Like, when did it happen? So many pizza and kebab places.
They don't do a kebab pizza. I want a doner kebab pizza, and you would think sandwich pizza and kebab.
Yeah. So close. Just so close, but so far.
I'm sure if you asked for it.
Yeah, but then I'd have to actually talk to them, whereas what I want to do is just press buttons and just eat, and then food.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Right. I still have the problem, as raised at KDM, of Googling food places when you live in Sandwich,
Yeah.
it's a nightmare.
I'm gonna Google actually. I'm gonna Google that now real
Anywhere in
quick.
the world above the places that are actually just down the road.
Right. It's getting darker and darker as we said it would. I'm going to try and adjust the lighting here for a sec.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'll just
I
go.
thought that was the conversation. I was going to say, I didn't
No,
think it was that dark. I was just talking about sandwich shops.
no, we said earlier because of the light. We were like, oh, natural light through the window, and then I said it would get darker, and it has. So I've had to turn the light on.
Right. I'm gonna I shall be back. So I'm gonna...
Sorry, I've been drinking rum since about 4 o'clock as well. So
No wonder you're sleepy then.
let's say that. Yeah.
You'll just be nodding off. You'll just be nodding off in a minute. I'm going to quickly shut the window. 2 secs.
How are you, Lily? You're the last video person left.
I'm okay.
Lou, you're very chill there.
Yeah, well, do you like it? It's
Yeah.
actually
I did think that when you kept popping up on my screen. I was like, she looks really comfy. And the fact you were like licking your fingers, I was like, she's clearly eating something nice as well.
What are you eating?
Easter egg. Oh, nice.
Right. I got delivered a box of Lindt special selection from my employers today.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I haven't gone into any Easter eggs yet. I'm still eating them in chocolate for my birthday, so getting rid of that first before I crack on with the Easter eggs.
When's your birthday?
It was like a month ago.
Oh.
I mean, do you just not like chocolate?
I just got bought a lot of it.
Wow.
And
I wish
like
I did.
for Christmas, I got like a massive Galaxy bar that was like equivalent to like 8 normal Galaxy bars. So that took ages. I can't eat that much. I don't normally eat loads of chocolate, so when I get it, I forget I've got it, or I just make my way through gradually.
No.
Or I put it in the fridge and then it goes because my parents eat it. So
Don't understand that problem. Can't relate.
My wife claims, well, she says she doesn't like chocolate. And to be fair, I mean, Lily knows. We went to the chocolate, and she had a cup of tea at the chocolate cafe.
you have to have a hot chocolate, or at least a chocolate milkshake.
Do you know the chocolate cafe in Canterbury?
The one in, oh, okay, I've been to the one in Folkestone. I actually think their savoury stuff is more interesting because it's weird how they make it work. I've had a sandwich with the chocolate dip.
Okay.
So, like, you get, I don't know, a
Is that
meat
when
sandwich.
they do like? Is that when they do like the chocolate and chili and?
Yeah, and then they have all sorts of desserts and things, but they do mains, but their mains will come with some sort of chocolate accompaniment of whatever. And it's mad how it works. It's so good.
Jeez.
I to a restaurant that did roast chicken that had been basted in chocolate chili sauce with chips.
Yeah, I can see that working.
Yeah, but chocolate and chips, I'd keep see that working.
Chocolate chili chicken. And
Putting
chicken.
dark chocolate in your, I think, chili.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bit of
yeah.
liquid.
I can't put no coffee in your chili. I put coffee in my chili.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't know. I've not done that one.
Coffee,
I like coffee.
chocolate, and some Guinness as well.
In a chili? Is this
chili.
even a chili anymore?
And Guinness. That's.
Trust me.
Miss, Jesus.
Delicious. Or stout, or something like that. Really good stuff.
By the time you got coffee and Guinness, you don't actually need any meat in that. do you?
No.
Yeah, it's like a meal in itself.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I don't know about that.
I like Marmite in a spaghetti bolognese sauce.
No.
That works. I do like Marmite.
Just got
Not a fan. I used to live where they make it, well, near where they make it, and it stinks.
that's in the north, isn't it?
In Burton-on-Trent, because it's a byproduct of brewing.
Yeah, it's like
So
Guinness
there
and
was a-
stuff.
Yeah, there was a brewer's, and then it would stink because there was a Marmite factory as well, and the whole Burton-on-Trent at a certain time of night stinks of Marmite. There you go. Little pub quiz fact for you, as if that's ever going to come up. But yeah, I don't like it as it is.
I'm
When you
not moving to Burton-on-Trent now. That would make me quite happy, I think.
really? No, if you've ever been to Burton-on-Trent, that wouldn't. It's not enough.
It's not enough compensation.
Not enough to bowl you over. No, you just pass through.
So how are you all coping with the lockdown?
Fine, she says, drinking out of a massive glass of wine.
Are you all still working?
Yeah.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Lily's got, she got furloughed, I know.
Who, Lily?
A lot of
Was that-
people are. Most companies have had to furlough at least a proportion of their staff. You know, I think part of the difficulty is that you have to have the money before you can even claim it from the government. It is quite crazy.
Yeah.
So,
A couple of customers that have come to us and said, because it's an IT support company I work for, and I do consulting side. We've had customers come to us and say, well, we furloughed our staff, so can you stop charging us for the IT support? And we go, and then they go, but can you leave their accounts enabled because they're still doing some emails and some PowerPoint work for us? No, that would be fraud. No.
Yeah, you're using it but don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, and also you furloughed your staff and you're also making them work.
no, it depends on what they're doing. So it can't be revenue generating. So there are grey lines around it.
Interesting. It also depends what part of the UK you live in. The Scottish High Court said so much as answering one email disqualified.
Oh, really? No. So, for example, I believe like you normally deal with a client. So, like I work obviously at a marketing agency, and it's like, well, there would be no harm in had a client got hold of, like say I was furloughed and I've got the email and I know that they've not bothered to follow on with kind of my colleagues, I can forward that on and say, well, this is what you should actually be doing. I'm not working. It benefits the business, yes, but I'm not actively trying to generate revenue. But if I want to check in, because I've still got my emails, I think you can still do that. But having said that, I just try not to ask anyone for anything if they're furloughed.
Yeah, that's the English interpretation. The same as the Scottish High Court interpretation. No. But aside from that, I do think can you stop charging them for us, but not just, put their seven on to access all their systems. That's just out and out cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice that option's there though. I hadn't even heard of the furloughed until like a few people put it on LinkedIn. I had to Google it, but.
And as a word, it has sprung from being almost completely unheard of to the word that everybody's saying.
It's an American term, isn't it? I think it's sort of stemmed from there.
I was having a talk about it the other week, and Glenn pointed out that it's quite common in contractors' contracts, so that you might be contracted with a company and they furlough you for a few months and then you come back and work for them again.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't heard of it until a few weeks ago either. But
yeah.
Ben and I were talking to a friend of ours in America the other day, and David said she got nothing. She lives in Iowa, and she basically got told on the Tuesday, we no longer require your services. We'll pay you till the end of the week. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
that's America. They can do that pretty standard anyway without all this mess.
Yeah. She's fortunate that her husband's a key worker. If you charge a bottle of Dr. Pepper, apparently that makes him a key worker. They've got nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I think there are some weird things, but they're quite lucky in all the way.
Yeah, and the fact they're helping companies as well with the wages or the loan or grant or whatever you can get. Don't know where they're getting the money from, but they're helping people.
Oh.
They're just creating it out of nothing. There's no from.
It'll be paid back eventually through taxes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, good luck, Lily. You're the youngest. You can sort all this out. And this is the next 20 years of your life.
And it'll be paid back through taxes and stroke or used as a justification.
I plan on retiring early as a pauper, so this won't affect me. That's what sort of decided now. Someone else can pick up the tax bill. If I stop working, I don't have to pay tax.
So say I'm younger than Lily, so me and Lily.
You two can hold the fort. This is on you two to pay through your taxes for the next 20 years. It's all right. You're welcome. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
We'll put it on your tab.
We have put it on your tab. There's no we will put it. We have.
It's there. It's there. Definitely not a conversation I think any of us thought we'd be having. Like,
No.
ever. It just wasn't a concept. It wasn't.
Strange things always happen. They go in cycles. The company I used to work for, the guy that used to run it was a charity, but he worked a lot in the finance, and he was saying you can see it goes in cycles, whether it's a economic crash or whether it's a virus or whether it's a big, I mean, in some countries, earthquakes, tornadoes and things. It's disaster is going to happen. You've just got to prepare for when it does.
That's Windows V.
Yeah,
We can hear you, but there we go.
I saw a video earlier of the current president of the United States saying nobody
Oh dear.
could have predicted that this would have happened, which is one of his strong phrases. And it was cut in with, and it said 5 years, 7 months, and 13 days ago. There was a video of the previous president of the United States saying, at some point, probably in our lifetimes, there's going to be an airborne virus. That's what I'm setting up. Bom, 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 bom. So you go, nobody could have predicted this happened. Apart from that guy who absolutely, totally did predict it.
Oh, there were predictions and warnings. The government's just ignored it. Didn't think it was going to hit.
There's a book about, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a book that's come out literally in like January about how the Trump administration basically threw all the handbooks out the window. One of them being your pandemic handbook, and then got rid of everybody, you know, in the cabinet. And this particular novel, you know, book account is just all about how they've been doing it wrong. Pandemic being one of the chapters, and it came out, you know, just at the start of it.
Have any of you guys seen that thing that's been circulating on social media? It's a TV program on Netflix, and it was filmed in like 2015. It's from China, and there's a scene in it, and like I think I can't remember the name of the show, but essentially it describes like for like what's happening like right now. Like it talks about like a coronavirus starting in China affecting the world. It's quite surreal. Have you guys seen that at all?
I'll go hunting.
I'll try and find the information.
That's not the one that is called Pandemic, is it?
No.
Even a better name.
I've just typed the name of it there, and I think it's
episode.
episode 10 for season 1.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then like 52 minutes in or something like that, there's like a conversation with the characters, and it's just like everything that's happening now happens in this TV show, but it was filmed like 3 years ago.
Oh, no way.
It's freaky.
I was watching X-Files the other day, and there's a pandemic version. This was in the 90s, and I was like, Mulder and Scully knew what they were talking about. The truth is out there.
Where is David Duchovny when you need him? Like,
honestly.
What's he doing?
So my brother bought this book, which was released in the 80s.
Oh.
Dean Koontz, which is probably one of the one that he's seen somewhat of a resurgence now, because he predicts in that doesn't predict. It's just like sci-fi. Does sci-fi predict? It's not really.
Yeah, it's quite vague,
You know what
isn't
I
it?
mean?
Though his description, like it could be. He describes that a flu will hit. It's a flu. It drastically affects your lungs. Like.
Yeah, he says it comes out of Wuhan and stuff like that. But either way, like it's it's one of those things where people should be scenario planning for this sort of thing. If a few people can kind of come up with well, what's quite virulent? Yeah, coronaviruses, they're a bit of a bitch, aren't they? Yeah.
Have you seen the Bill Gates video where he predicted it a few years ago?
Yeah. That is the most. Did you see the interview with him on the BBC News sofa? Because that is the most well shot Skype style, Zoom style interview I've ever seen. You should check it out. Type in like Bill Gates BBC News from like 3 days ago. It's just it's so well lit. He's like, there's a background focus. Like he's using Microsoft Teams like to the extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone was going to do it, it would be him, right? But I was watching it, going, this is like broadcast quality internet conference call going on.
That's because he can afford his own personal studio.
Right, yeah, and it's all just like hooked up. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a thing called The Machine Stops? A book called The Machine Stops.
No.
No, The Machine Stops is a book about a world where everybody stays in their own pod. Nobody ever comes out. Food is delivered to your door, but you never meet the people who are delivering it. And everybody just trades in rumour and speculation all the time. And there's no, and eventually the system that drives it all collapses and society collapses and everyone, kind of goes into chaos. And it was written by E.M. Forster in 1909.
Oh, right. Wow.
Now it could just be an episode of the Daily Mirror.
Yeah, well, but it's basic. I mean, he is literally describing March 2020.
Yeah.
So chaos is what's next. That's what we're guaranteed.
Well,
we're about to descend into chaos.
I think something slightly different. Little known fact is that I write a little bit of sci-fi, and I wrote a little thing on the day that we got locked down, sort of going, well, what does it look like 150 something years in the future? And I don't necessarily think it's chaos, but I guess kind of from a sociological and I guess a rights perspective, as terrible as the situation is that we're in now, we need to make sure that we don't throw away too many of our rights, sign off too many bills, that we then find it hard to take back.
Absolutely.
But that's a very difficult line to tread because you're dealing with people's lives ultimately, But on that uplifting note,
now that everyone's really depressed about the state of things, you're expecting me to have some relevant answers. Is that? I mean, I might just go now.
I mean, I'm not going to say you've got like the tough gig, but you're gonna kind of have to bring up the whole, gonna have to bring up the whole meetup because
cheer up, everybody. It's not that bad.
That's it.
If you haven't got wine, you need it. It helps.
So true.
Yeah,
and a puppy as well.
Yeah, even though he gets shouted at, but he's doing all right. He's going to sleep now. He's asleep somewhere. We're all right.
Well, without further ado, Kent Digital Ashford, I give you Gemma Kane with the good news.
Oh my goodness. Some pressure and introduction. Okay. Well, let's get technology underway first. So can you all see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yep, I can see it.
I've got the tile thing now, so I can see everybody. I didn't have that before. I think I could only have it in presenter mode. That's exciting. We're learning so much about technology at the moment, aren't we? Cool things that I didn't know all the different systems could do. Right, so as we kind of alluded to earlier, so I work for Reflect Digital. We're part of the lab group, and the talk that I'm going to go through is all about kind of understanding user behaviour a little bit more, so we can make your marketing a little bit stronger in a crisis, specifically this one. Try to avoid too many of those kind of buzzwords actually in what we're going to cover, and to just think about actually when we talk about human behaviour, obviously we're trying to understand what it is that's driving people, and at the moment I think it's clear to a lot of us that people's needs have changed, so we're kind of looking for the next step within our businesses and for our clients, if you've got clients and things like that. I just tried to skip and that didn't work. There we go. So we're part of Lab Group. They are behavioural psychology experts. So they've got a whole neuroscience team. They do lots of very, very clever stuff where they kind of plug people in and can do eye tracking and totally understand your emotional responses to just like a single graphic or to a website or to a video. And then they kind of record that and present that data back to the clients that they work with. So since we joined their group, we've obviously been kind of upskilling and learning lots of new things. And as such, we've also become quite obsessed with human behaviour. I'd say that as an agency, our kind of approach to marketing has always been kind of asking that so what, and looking that bit deeper at those drivers, as well as just kind of thinking about the results. So I personally am thoroughly enjoying this kind of steep learning curve that we're on. So what's been going on recently? It's been very strange and a very tough few weeks for everybody, locally, nationally, across the globe. It's affecting all of us. The world's definitely not the same place that it once was, and actually it probably never will be again. A lot of people keep talking about this new normal that's going to arrive, and don't really know what that looks like yet. I don't really know if I kind of agree with the term, what is normal and kind of what it was. But we've changed, you know, we've stayed apart in order to come together, and a lot of beautiful things have happened from that. So this is actually something that is happening in Thanet. Someone's running a blog called Lockdown Life. It's a photography-led blog, capturing like the beautiful moments amongst families on their doorsteps, and kind of seeing all the different personalities that are coming out there. And also we've reprioritized as well. So for a lot of us, it's kind of like maybe family and fitness are kind of high on a lot of people's agendas, but also personal development and what can we actually do with what we've got to hand, whether that be kind of time, skills, resources. Businesses have had to drastically reprioritize too. We've had to think and maybe pause and pivot on what it is that we're doing. As people, we're open to lots of new ideas and new opportunities, from online weddings. There were Zoom Passovers recently, lots of celebrations across different families, different households. We're just generally finding new ways to connect with people. So this type of online networking event, like we said, we never would have thought of doing it before, but now we've done it actually. Does this type of connectivity have a place in the world, and does it provide us with something that we perhaps didn't have before? As businesses, we've had to adapt as well. I know, I mean, this slide could have been a whole deck in itself when I think about the different things that people have had to do, but just to give you a few examples, immediately before lockdown, actually, in the sort of few days preceding it, our client came to us, who is a hops provider. They created Beer Is Here, which is a search engine in itself for you to find a local brewer and have beer delivered direct to your home, so that we can support businesses local to you, but you can also support independent businesses. So that's actually a European initiative that they kicked off, so that we still had something that's really quite you know, valuable and personable to a lot of people when we come out the other side of this. Fitness classes are going online, universities have had to pivot, and you've got forensic science teams actually creating PPE and donating it to the NHS. You've also got butchers that are, and local high street stores that are now offering direct deliveries, and they don't even have a full e-commerce function. So if you were to go back 3 weeks, or let's say 3 months ago, before this was even conceivable, and ask someone, given the choice of doing their shopping with someone like Tesco's online, where it's easy and clear how you put things into your basket, make a purchase, and you're guaranteed it's going to turn up at the time that you selected, compared to doing a random order on Facebook, they would have laughed at you. But now that our needs have changed, actually we're inclined to try new things and to approach how we deal with businesses as consumers in new ways. And even from a B2B perspective, Breaks, they're a local company as well. These are all local companies, you probably noticed. Breaks being a local company, they've shifted massively in order to provide support to the local community. They provided, I think, wholesale items into supermarkets to sort of support with supply chain issues. They're doing home deliveries for vulnerable people and things like that, and they've really rallied together and put their brand out there and kind of at the forefront on social media. I wasn't following them before, admittedly, and they're everywhere in my newsfeed. You're probably sitting there thinking, well, what's this actually got to do with me and my business? Or if you're a company that works with lots of clients, what's it got to do with me and my clients? Well, because of everything that's happened, our needs and our drivers have changed. Most of them. Ice cream and chocolate is still very important, unless you're Megan, and then it just sits in a cupboard for a while. Neuroscientists have discovered that all decisions that we make are weighed up emotionally, even the logical ones. So even from the hard-nosed business decisions that you may think that you have taken a rational approach to making that decision, but we tend to post-rationalize all of the decisions that we make. So these emotional drivers that have been usually embedded within us over time and drive the decisions that we make, they've taken a drastic shift, and they are actually now massively they're implicating the decisions that we make within business and within our personal lives. Economists have also realised that people don't always respond predictively to rational things such as price and value. When I talk about price actually throughout this, I'm not just talking about the monetary value, but what is the cost to the person? What are they asked to part with in order to gain the service or the product that it is that they want access to? And what is the value to them? Because again, you know, the value of having a high street butcher deliver something to me at a cost, both in time and money, meaning I don't have to go out and risk actually getting infection, that's massively high compared to me having to risk going into a high street store and then still not getting what I want, or having to go to like a supermarket and still not getting what I want. So these are some books here that I can actually add the links to that sort of look at the emotion behind a lot of the decisions that we make. And I think what we need to do at the moment is we need to ask ourselves, you know, how are we delivering value right now? And in terms of cost, what are we really asking our customers and our audiences for? So just talk you through our kind of process. So what we do is very much a kind of blend of the psychology and the consumer neuroscience. What we're talking about here is very much the behavioural psychology element of that. And then you've got these other elements that all feed into the marketing that we do. So with us, it's creativity, UX and design. And within most businesses, it all feeds into that marketing element. So I know there are a lot of businesses actually that are UX experts, or they're cropping up as kind of neuroscience and behavioural psychology experts. But what Lab have actually done is they've productized this in a way that's easy for us to kind of digest and then apply as a business. So this is one part of it. So what we've got here within these kind of 3 layers is this top profiling section is something that most businesses do and tend to do well. We all know who we should be talking to and who our target demographic are. We've probably, at least in our mind, got an idea of who those personas are, you know, where they are, what makes them tick, how do we access them via different like mediums and different channels, how should we be selling to them? And we've got a rough idea of their customer journey. So whether it's that they first engage in social and then they tend to kind of buy online, or they like to pick up the phone, we know our customers. As you know, within our businesses, we know who we're talking to. But what we do is put that kind of empathy map layer in. And this is the bit that I want you guys to be thinking about. So the extrinsic expectation. So what level of quality and service do customers expect, or have they come to expect from your business? And what you need to ask yourself actually is, how has that changed? Because their current needs have changed, and they're going to continue to be different as we kind of emerge out of this. Then you have the intrinsic motivators as well. So that's what the contextual elements, the rational and the emotional motives that drive people. So again, looking at the fear element of not wanting to perhaps leave the house means I'm more likely to turn to a business that I didn't turn to before and have something delivered. You know, people are actually going to local businesses as opposed to Amazon because they can also track the route of the products that are kind of coming through their door. And this isn't just on like a food and a consumable goods level. And then you've got the unconscious perception. So something that I touch on in a little bit, because I've got some insights for you into how the market's changed, is actually we all have that immediate reaction to brands that we kind of interact with. If we say a certain brand, we automatically know their slogan, we think of the colour, we maybe have a feeling, there's an emotional sort of implicit response to a lot of big brands. But you'll also find that that happens at a local level. So whether or not you provide your service only at a local level isn't necessarily the issue here. But if you are a local business, you have a brand reputation within your different circles. Now, they do predict that those that have a strong kind of unconscious perception as a brand amongst their market, if there is a market for them during lockdown and as we emerge, they predict that those brands actually will do really well out of the current situation, because what you'll have is a positive emotional tie driving customers towards you. So you really need to think about where you've already built that brand reputation, and to just kind of half pick on someone and half big up his ego a little bit. If you look at Mark from Red Sprout as an example, because he cropped up when I thought of this as a local brand, he's well known, he has emotional ties within the sort of local community and the recruitment community. But actually, since he paused his business in the last 2 weeks, he hasn't stopped communication, and his messaging is pivoting, but the connection is still there. So that's the type of thing that's going to serve Mark well as he continues, and I think something that we can all kind of learn a lot from. And then all of this ties into the strategy, and it's the stuff that you're doing. You're creating content, you're working on your messaging, you're working on your UX and things like that. So what we want to do is have a little look at how we can influence this empathy layer, and then we're probably going to want to revisit actually the demographics and the personas and what the customer journey is for different people. I'll probably reference this, so I'm going to give you a complete whistle-stop tour of the lab's unique persona model, and I'll pop that link in the chat afterwards. You can kind of do a test. But they've broken down the personas into these kind of 3 key drivers. So your monkey is the type of person that likes to be acknowledged, doesn't want to be left out, wants to not be ignored. So if I was to sum this up in a person, it might be like a salesperson, or it might be an account manager, which I am. So you are the type of person, they have quite a dominant personality, but their values are kind of maybe status, recognition, and purpose. That fits really well with sales. A lion is someone that's actually really kind of concerned with the numbers, really concerned that what they're buying into is competent and is fit for purpose. They have a fear of not being good enough, because fear as well as that desire for good, they're the 2 things that drive us. It's either a positive or a negative. And their dominant values are kind of that achievement and mastery, whether it's of their skill at work, whether that's in their personal life, whatever they do, they want to make sure they're doing it 100% and they're doing it well. And dogs, that's somebody who is driven more by that belonging feeling. So the desire to feel connected to friends, to teams, to communities. They don't want to be rejected. So they really, when they're working with your brand, they're looking for the affiliation and kind of the authenticity. So the important thing to remember when we talk about personas is actually that we're all individuals. So just because I live in a certain area and I'm a certain age and I've got a certain type of job doesn't mean to say that I want to buy from the same types of brands or work with the same types of businesses as everyone else. I have personal emotional drivers, and we need to kind of understand actually either what those were if we didn't know, but also how they've shifted. And I mean, we believe that obviously understanding this is going to make us better at marketing as individuals. So how are you going to do it? Unfortunately, you're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to get reacquainted with your audience. So there's no necessarily easy way to do this, but we've done a little bit of research into how the market's shifted, and that can help you to kind of see where some opportunities might lie. So the language that we use and what we value has changed. So we work with a social insight gathering tool, and we've been doing some social listening with them, and they also do some social listening around coronavirus. They run a weekly update. They're called Relative Insights. So they found that we've currently shifted from a worry state to that kind of keep calm and carry on. We're working with the situation that we find ourselves in. Our fear at the moment is still influencing buying decisions, but rather than sort of panic buying, which has actually been debunked to a certain extent, and I'll touch on that in a minute, but actually we're worried about supply chain issues. We're worried about how we stop, how we go back to work, and should we be continuing to work with our Chinese supplier, because actually are we then opening up risk of infection because they're actually still infected? It would be the same with Italy and Spain, but as the Chinese market's kind of opening, all these questions are starting to arise as people want to start to get back to work in the UK. a really interesting thing that they communicated more verbally on the call that I was on, but it's not necessarily on the link that I've got there, is that heroism and strength is kind of seen in a new light. So a lot of the time when you're conducting social listening, you can understand not empathy, you can actually understand sentiment by looking at how often something's mentioned and the correlating words that are mentioned with it. But more so than ever, they're seeing this kind of respect and this talk of heroism when it comes to our key workers within the UK. There's a massive emotional driver in people's communication at the moment that perhaps hasn't been seen before. That is obviously going to be influencing all decisions that people make now and then moving forward. TV is keeping us sane, so if you've got the budget or the appetite for advertising or any type of screen time, creating your own content because you know you've got your phone, you've got the assets, this is something that's going to help you get in front of your audience, and it can be quite minimal cost. We're getting creative with cooking, we're using what we have, we're less wasteful, and we really like to consider the cost and the value of things. And a lot of the statistics have debunked that we all went out and we were panic buying narrative to actually we're quite considered in our purchases, and we always were. So we weren't just panic buying, we were buying across a broader spectrum. We're buying in areas that we never thought we would have to before. So it's not just stockpiling, it's just we weren't necessarily buying medicines in certain areas, we weren't buying PPE for ourselves because we never thought we'd need it. So all these different avenues have kind of opened up even as end consumers, but then businesses have actually adapted. I've seen brewers start to sell hand gel. They've created hand sanitizer and now they're selling that to the public, and they reserve a certain part of it for the NHS. So all these strange things that we never could have predicted have started to happen. Now, looking some more at the facts and the figures, I mean, if China's where we should be looking kind of for lessons as they start to come out of lockdown, then what we know is that we should expect a reduction in FMCG spending during lockdown, which I think a lot of us can relate to. Personal care is being prioritised because no one sees us unless you're crazy enough to go on one of these calls. The creative thinking community actually has an opportunity to not just earn money within the next few months, but to network, to build a reputation. You have a captive audience in order to kind of display to, but also where people are looking to buy into brands that have an emotional connection, that creativity really comes into that. And we're enjoying the little things more. So actually, where we do kind of care about appearance a little bit less, they sort of spike in food and drink categories. So people are willing to spend the money and go out of their way to get access to food and drink that makes them feel good, because it's one of the few indulgences that we can have. So there's actually a market for, if I happen to know a few local food and drink providers. So people are willing to go direct to the suppliers at the moment. And this is something, as I say, they saw in China. But when we start to come out of it, actually, a thing that we really need to consider is that movement control is going to remain a huge factor. So what that means is people are going to want to shop local. People want to trace the source of everything that they have access to. They want to understand that risk has been minimal. Not everyone is actually digitally savvy. So, you know, I heard talk of people saying, well, there's going to be like obviously there's a rise in e-commerce. Yes, there's a rise in e-commerce where the function was already available, but what people have done is they found different routes in order to communicate with their market. So where people have taken to social media to sell, it also means that their social presence has increased. Their frequency and quality of content that they've had to produce has increased, and also the level of customer service that's being provided has now got a spotlight shone on it. So businesses have found themselves in the thick of it. This is something that we should learn from as we then decide how we're going to move forward in marketing our own businesses, because if we want these customers to stay with us, the experience they have now is obviously really important. Proximity and speciality stores are winning in offline sales in the Chinese market. So anybody that provides something that is a speciality service, so it might be a necessity, but it also might be speciality beauty creams, it might be speciality products that have that feel-good factor, the type of things that we indulge in socially. If you can provide that locally, or if you can find markets to provide your services to at a local level, then that's actually something that people find really valuable. and that people were seeking out these specialist care products in particular in China. But I think we're also seeing from a lot of the research that I did about businesses, people are seeking out the brands that they want to consume and the brands that they kind of want to work with. So you need to obviously think about how you can take these insights and sort of start to apply them. And if you're lucky, you might have time on your hands. Now, I know not everybody does. Some people might find that they're still working full time and they've got 4 kids at home and they don't know what like a spare 5 minutes in the day looks like. But none of us are commuting. We need to restructure our approach to the time that we have, and we need to start planning and undertaking some activities that are going to help us. So we've been talking about it a lot internally at the agency. I think there's kind of 3 phases. There's your survival phase, which is what a lot of us have been in. We've shut down, we've perhaps paused. We maybe have pivoted, but we're not kind of full throttle in our business as we were before. Then we've got to think about what we're doing when we're emerging. And then we've got to think about when the market is kind of fully active and how are we ready for that? So I think one of the first things, it might be a really simple bit of advice, but it'd be amiss to not say it. You need to pick up the phone and talk to people. And don't ignore the elephant in the room. I think everybody is struggling. We need to bypass the shame associated with having to pause business, having to perhaps furlough staff, and we've reduced production and we've adjusted the services that we provide, because this isn't a reflection on an individual business. This is something that's affecting everybody globally. And if we talk about it, we'll find solutions within supply chains, and there's also solutions within how we provide those services or those products to our customers. Regular check-ins with those customers is important. I was having calls every other day with my clients because we just never knew. But now there's a bit of an equilibrium. It's sort of once a week, but we needed regular check-ins to see what was happening next with their business. As we start to emerge, that will need to happen again. But that could be in the form of email marketing. That could be in the form of social media content. Again, if you want to make it personal, why aren't you making video content to let your business, your customers know what it is that you've been up to? But from a practical perspective as well, you need to benchmark against the existing goals that you have within your business. So whether that's just sitting down as a business, whether you're on your own or you've got a team, and saying, right, what were our goals? Or do you have goals in things like analytics and things like that for your website already set up? And actually think, well, what did good look like, so we can understand with real data, perhaps, the implications of what's happened. And then you can use free tools like Google Trends. So this is a nice way to understand what people have been searching for and how actually people's needs have changed, their focus has changed. You have to take this within context. Because I heard a story about somebody who thought that sliding doors, the search for like patio doors had been on the rise since lockdown, but it turns out it was just on TV and more people were watching TV. So I think it was probably a bit embarrassing that he was like, if this is your market, this is definitely somewhere where you can capitalise. And then a few people pointed out that they'd all just been watching the film, and then people had gone and researched the cast afterwards. So obviously everything you do it within context. Gather data now. Install Hotjar on your site. It's free. There's no reason to not have this monitoring how users behave on your site. If you didn't see what they did before, I understand that you can't benchmark how they've changed, but you can then sit down, again, if you've got the time on your hands, and view how people are looking at different content on your site. Go back and review how your most frequent, your highest landing pages have changed on your website compared to what was being viewed and what your main landing pages were during lockdown, for example. Assess all of your goals and tracking. Now is the time to do this, so that when you have to act fast, when we start to emerge or we're in an active kind of market state, you can actually jump on it, because otherwise you're just going to get kind of analysis paralysis, not really knowing what decisions you should be making. But this is going to leave you kind of equipped and informed. Set up new tracking, so including social listening. You've got Google Alerts that you can set up, so you may see that there have been trends in other similar markets that you've not acted on yet, or opportunities that you've not acted on yet, and you want to know if it's viable. So you can set up Google alerts, you can set up Twitter searches, and you can use insights tools just to give you a picture of that landscape. And then pairing that with things like Hotjar and pairing that with things like the search trends, you will also start to understand the needs and the drivers a little bit more. Now, surveys, the normal Google surveys are brilliant. And if you ask the right questions, if you have a few hundred people or even 50 people within your email database that you can contact and just say, how's business right now? Use it as one of your check-in points, and then take that information. You know, one of the open-ended questions could be, what could we be doing differently? What more could we be doing for you? Because that is going to be so valuable in your relationship with your customers, but it could also give you some really amazing insights that then become PR opportunities when you want to start shouting about kind of being fully active again. And I think really importantly as well, it's funny that you were talking about this just before we came on here, is we need to plan and we need to be prepared. So if we emerge from this, we need to consider the new normal and what that kind of looks like. So have a marketing plan. Obviously, people are reluctant to invest too much time in a concrete plan that might need to change, but you need to have an idea of scenario planning from a marketing perspective. Don't just stop. When brands do stop marketing, and yeah, you probably think I would say this, but I can share you the article that I used as research. But brands that stop marketing altogether are never as successful as those that continue to have a presence during any type of recession or any type of sort of downsurge. I think also flesh out your new personas, understand your users more. So if you had a persona deck, revisit it. If you know if you have it written down, if not, get it written down. What are their fears? What are their goals that they're trying to achieve in interacting with you? What do they really want from your brand, and kind of what value do you provide? What are they willing to pay for it in terms of time, in terms of costs? You can understand how that's changed. Obviously then you can effectively plan your marketing. And I wanted to just put this one in there, that we need to consider what if this happens again, not just in terms of if coronavirus doesn't go away and the cold weather hits and we're all asked to go into lockdown again, but it hit us last time, and now actually we have an opportunity to think about what we would do, to think about how we would work remotely, how we would plan, and how we would perhaps sort of pivot and alternate our services if we needed to. There are, somebody said it earlier, these things come in cycles. You're not always going to know what they are. So we need those kind of contingency plans in place. So we do have something coming out in about a week or so. You may be familiar with the fact that we share a marketing calendar, and it has all sorts of tips and advice around, you know, content opportunities really, and then that seeds out into your strategy and the rest of your marketing. Well, really we needed to look at that with a fresh lens after everything that had happened. So we've got the crisis update calendar that we're just reviewing, and we're going to look at that maybe for the next 3 or 4 months initially, and that's going to look at this kind of survival mode, emerging mode, and kind of active marketing mode. So depending on where your business is, you can capitalize on the different opportunities in each month. It's not just a once we come out of lockdown everything's good for everyone, because I appreciate we're kind of all in different phases. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and then I'll be sharing when that's ready for you guys to download and have a look at. Hopefully you'll find something useful within that. And then just a quick shameless plug. This was completely coincidental, but it was supposed to be Brighton SEO this week, and Becky would have been speaking, and actually she's decided, she literally just decided, I think on Monday, that she's going to do a talk on Friday, sort of revisiting a talk that she did before and sharing some insights, which I really do urge you all to book onto the webinar. We've analysed content for about 2,000 websites, and we're looking actually at what engaging content looks like per industry sector, and then showing people how they can actually apply this to something like SEO in order to generate leads and to kind of capture people. So I'll share the link to that afterwards as well. There we go. So I'm not sure if I went over a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. I did try to speedily whiz you all through.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah, no, we were running a little bit behind anyway. No, that was brilliant actually. There's a lot in there actually. A lot that I find that people often struggle to people they struggle with the implementation, but often they struggle with understanding the right questions that they should be asking to then kind of implement off the back of that. And what you've done there is actually given us an awful lot of things to be thinking about, places where we can go, questions we can ask, and then things we can do. So that's really very good there. Thank you very much.
So I'll share that, and then that's got some links in it to those resources. And then it's one of those that, everyone's going to have. We've got different sectors here, and there's no one answer for everybody. So, and that's what I've honestly, that was a struggle that I had looking at the approach to our marketing calendar. I just thought, well, lockdown might end June. I've kind of honestly thought I'm going to be here till June, stuck in the same four walls, and I've resigned myself to that fact. But just because we come out of lockdown, what does that mean? And that's where the kind of phased approach to where your business is at sort of came in. And I think we need to all just revisit the basics. And if you remember that everybody's human, remember that they have needs behind them driving the decisions that they're making, even when it's B2B, it doesn't matter. There's going to be, we are changed as people, and we are changed in what we're looking for. And I've got to be honest, a lot of people keep saying, nobody knows what that looks like. And that's something that I was really reluctant to kind of sort of provide tonight. I think it would be great to just continue this discussion with anybody that's interested, but nobody knows the answers. It's difficult.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think back to the last time the world really changed, like tangibly, I think was probably 9/11.
I was going to say exactly the same thing.
And I was a lot younger then. Certainly wasn't in business, but I do recall that the whole tone and the whole way that businesses engage with people, it just changed overnight. And I guess that with coronavirus, it's I always used to think in terms of like ethnocentric attitudes, and I fight with my brother until the bloke from next door gets involved, and then we fight him until the guy from around the corner gets involved, and then we as a street fight him. And I guess kind of maybe one of the things that we'll see that will last after this kind of coronavirus crisis is that kind of sense of, oh, we're all human, aren't we? Anyone can get this. Anyone can die from it. Anyone can spread it. It's kind of a leveler in that sense.
It is, it is. There've been some really, really positive things, and I do try to focus on the positives in life in general. There have been some great things that have come out of like a sense of community and people rallying round to try and do the right thing and to check in on neighbours and all those types of things. And but I think even in a business sense, so I suppose in a way like it's not my business, so it's not necessarily something that I'm experiencing firsthand, but I'm seeing it and hearing the conversations. People, they pick up the phone, how are you doing? Well, that's what I do with my clients. I mean, how are you doing? I'm not here to sell you anything at all. I'm just, are you okay? What are you doing? How's the family? Are you at home? Is there, you ask those questions, and that's the most important conversation for us all to have right now. So I think the human element, it's kind of it's done our jobs for us. It's kind of brought it into it. It's brought that human element in.
And of course, when you're pitching a potential client who might be, the CMO of, a Fortune 500 company, and their 3 kids run into the Zoom call, it's got this real humanizing effect, hasn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's it's changed so much. We don't know whether or not what we're going to let go of when we are allowed back out. I don't want to say go back to normality because it's not that, but when we are allowed to kind of move forward and start interacting with each other, we will be changed. We'll be a bit more relaxed about relationships. But then it's good because we've had how many, there's been like 16, 17 of us who've all sat here and like looked at each other's living rooms. You know, it's just not something we would have considered doing before, but we're a lot more relaxed about that type of thing. We're kind of letting people in. It's hard, I appreciate, so I do talk about emotional drivers. It's like, how can you know the emotional drivers of 1,000 people? So you've got an audience set of 1,000 people, but what you can look for is patterns, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll open it up to questions shortly, but I think there's a lot of kind of crossover with Maddie's talk beforehand, because we've got all these questions and we've got all these kind of places and these ideas now, and then taking a kind of, you know, listicle, you know, quick and dirty approach, which is
you're not wrong.
You know, we can then start engaging with those audiences in a way that's acceptable to them, and also authentic and responsive to kind of what's happening as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so obviously having listened to your talk first and then going through it, everything where there was a problem, video content can be, if it's right for your brand, an opportunity to resolve it. From customer service to telling stories to big full production scale pieces to go on like national TV. And it is down to, is it right for you as a brand? Is it right for your audience? Why would you put the time into it if your audience don't care?
And if they're not on platforms that where video is one of the main, or if they're on a saturated video platform, like LinkedIn is a really good place of video. But if you do most of your business on Facebook and you're relying on organic Facebook views, then you're just going to have to put some money behind it for it to get seen, unless it's on your page.
Yeah.
Questions?
I had a question actually about, you mentioned authenticity, Erin, and I think that's something that even when I do a lot of networking, and we're doing networking meetings in the mornings over Zoom now, and it's quite, you know, you were saying that we were on this transition, Gemma. How do you try and put across that, no, you're not, I'm not trying to, you know, when you pick up the phone to someone and you say, how are you, there must be this feeling like, or do you think I'm trying to sell you something, or you know, how do you put that authenticity across? Or is it just something we need to just ride the wave?
Yeah, I think we as a company and as a brand struggle with that a lot. It's like, how can you always say that sort of, oh, I'm authentic and you can trust me, when everyone says that I'm authentic and you can trust me? Like, you can say it, but it's in your actions, isn't it? And I think, again, what does authenticity look like to your audience? So always calling your clients, if I was going to take it from our business perspective, I always call my clients the day after Boris Johnson does an update. Am I that authentic? If I genuinely think of them and pick up the phone, and I'm happy for them to say that they're too busy to talk to me, in a way that in itself could kind of build trust, because they're like, they know that actually I genuinely cared. And if you're not, if you're as forgetful as I am, you can always actually just add a reminder to do it, but not the day after Boris Johnson does an update. You know, there's means around everything. And kind of similarly, in your approach to marketing, again, we feel with our own marketing at the moment that it's better to put out content that we feel is valuable and to stay quiet on a lot of subjects, and we're not necessarily posting as much as we normally do. Our brand is a kind of very
so you've
happy.
got a filter at the moment.
Yeah, well, because everybody's doing it. So we're a very sociable brand. We constantly talk about our team and the work and how we work together, because that's kind of the thing that drives the great work that we do for clients. But everybody's posting pictures of people on Zoom calls and you know, constantly showing what their home desks are like and things like that. And although we've had a bit of fun with it, there kind of has to come a point for us where kind of that stops and a different type of engagement begins. And that's because, again, we assess our audience and we understand what's valuable. They can get that from elsewhere, but what they need from us right now is a different type of result. So I do think it's in the actions that you choose to take that you kind of deliver that authenticity, and the content and the medium has to be right as well. So you know, for your own businesses, only you will know that, but like, if you're not sure, if you're like at a loss of whether or not you're going to stick your time and your effort into tons of social content or setting up a new YouTube channel, as an example. Like, we were talking about my friend that's a chef, massively investing in his YouTube channel at the moment just because he loves to cook. Did it before charge, does cook-alongs every week because it's better to be present. I'm seeing lots of people executing it in different ways.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I like that. The fact that you said it's what's right for your brand at the end of the day, because loads of people, the amount of people that normally I never see post on LinkedIn, and now they've all just piped up about being furloughed or something or other that's just random, and it's like, okay, you've come out of nowhere. What's kind of the value? Whereas, like you say, it's good to be seen and present, but you've got to be present in the right way and add value. Because, like you say, if you lot, you're not going to put, oh look, we've had another team call today. You know what's right.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, you know what's right for your marketing. You know what your audience want to see at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I think people forget that.
And I think when you're watching those people, you're probably thinking, oh, they won't be there afterwards. So this is actually quite annoying. And like, so they go down in your estimations a little bit. And it sounded like they had anyway from how you just described them. So they're not achieving what they think they're achieving by doing that, jumping on a bandwagon. And yeah, so again, sometimes I suppose in that case, it's better to kind of stay silent to be authentic.
Yeah. And the fact that you've said like the long haul as well, thinking about what if this does come back around. Most people are in either the mode where they're just like, oh, I need to keep surviving, keep the business going, or they're looking at new ways to learn something new and a new product or a new offering they can offer to people. But I don't think many people are thinking, oh, what if this happens again next year?
Yeah, and the thing is, right, well, if it's a reality now, we now see this as something that could be a reality in our lives. So how do we deal with it from a business perspective? It'd be naive to never consider that you might have to do it again. But also, there's massive value in a lot of the things that we're doing, and by enabling things like remote working and creativity in different ways. Don't just throw them out because you're allowed to go back to the office. So it's not just about it happening again. The contingency could just be for a snow day. I don't know.
Yeah, or even if someone in the team, if a few of the team like can't come to the office or something, there's ways that people can work around it now.
Yeah, I've run a brand workshop and a persona workshop over a system like this. I was dreading it. But you know what? Actually, it worked really well. And if I had to be faced with that during normal circumstances, the opportunity to pause something or to move and still be creative, but we can't all be in the same location, or to work internationally. Why can't, so yeah, all of those things. Just felt it was a bit naive to not have the thought in there at least, and to kind of take those learnings with us.
So I mean, you've got to be open to new things. I hate video calls, but it wasn't until when I was doing the daily ones with the team and like things like this, I was like, oh god, I've got to be on video. But you just put yourself out there. And it's fine after you've done it once.
You're doing great.
It's fine after you've done it once. I'm used to seeing you in person anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just got to put yourself out your comfort zone. Like video as well. Hey, Maddie.
Yeah. No one watches more of my content than Megan.
I see his face everywhere.
Not even you.
Yeah, even me. It's out the door.
Even now, I don't get to see him. See, I only get to see him a few times a day. So
I thought you were going to get a break, but you don't.
No, I haven't got to sit opposite him. So you know.
Yeah, fantastic. Any more questions from the audience?
I like what you said, Ray, in the chat.
Social media is for life, not just for Corona.
It just jumped into my head.
Love it.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I think there's, I quite like the kind of, I'm often more interested in the question than the answer, and the question of kind of, you know, the right question is what that we have learned will be part of that new normal. Once, you know, things are less uptight. I can't say return to normal, because you're right, it will never be normal. But what will continue? You know, you said it there, like international clients. Everyone's now like, well, crap, I've just spent, you know, a month of my life still working, you know, if you're fortunate enough to not to have been like sort of furloughed or anything, like still working, still being productive, digitally. Like we've realized this digital dream in a few weeks, you know.
So a little I was just going to say a little bit of advice for when you kind of return to face-to-face life. This came from a UX podcast, and I've seen it now that we're all in the same situation, where a lady said that they take the approach in her business of one remote, all remote. Okay. So you execute your communication by the lowest common denominator, which that's a horrible thing to say about remote working, but don't put 5 of you in a room and one person on a web call, because that person will have poor connection. You'll share things around the table. What you should do is you should all be remote, find somewhere to be, and actually share creativity and communicate in the same way, so that your experience is the same and your input is the same. So I'd heard that quite a few months before, actually. I remember thinking, because we have remote workers, I was like, that's really valuable. But now I've seen it, I don't want to go back. And it'd be weird, but I'll be saying, right, I'm going to go sit over there, you go sit over there, and I know I can see you, but we're all going to remote in, because actually our clients are in different locations or whatever it is. And then think about how you're presenting what you're presenting, and think about whether or not you leave a meeting with an action and stuff like that, and actually clearly, what's the path here? What do we do? We were all able to create a video remotely through instructions on a screen. I don't think you would have thought to do that like 3 months ago, but you know, we can take these things with us.
Is there like a sweet spot where I almost think that there's an element where consumers and clients and things, as business owners or companies, we can help to drive what a new normal looks like as well, if we can just forecast it a little bit before the consumers take it away. Do you know what I mean? So we have an opportunity, especially because environmental issues and sustainability and stuff like that is that they're very silent. I think people who have those issues at their core are rightly very quiet at the moment, because they don't want to stand up on their soapbox and go, told you so, this is great for the environment, blah blah blah. But there will be a point where those kind of ethics and those business choices, we can choose whether that's how we adapt and like kind of channel our consumers and clients like down that right route, if you like. But then that applies for like how, you know, aside from the environmental side of things, how you want people to engage with your brand, or how you want your customers to find you, you know. We have an opportunity to kind of like get ahead of that.
I think like it's going to be interesting to see, for want of a better word, how brands then turn their back on the audiences that saved them. So it may be that like if you to take kind of food as an easy example, but people switching to buying locally because the experience was made easier for them, or it fit the narrative at the time. And then, you know, people are going to switch back to perhaps only selling wholesale, and they're going to think, well, do you know what, I thought we had something special there.
So how do I make it like relevant to the new what will the new normal look like?
Yeah,
and
will
how
we
do I
see
then
product
switch it up
managers?
again? Yeah,
Absolutely. We might
Yeah.
see sort of local produce product managers sprouting up in people that normally only sell wholesale, or you know, new revenue streams, and then people have to kind of do things like look at their pricing models, because they don't want to be selling in competition with the people that they sell wholesale through. But this can come right down to things like clothing and stuff like that. We're starting to see massive supply chain issues in the retail industry because everybody's cancelled their orders. So where you had massive retailers, like online retailers that basically buy from places like China and India really cheaply, they don't pay for the orders until they're shipped. So they had masses of orders, no one's buying, so they said we don't want them. So you've got half-made clothes and tons and tons of fabric. So that's what I mean. So these more and more gaps will start to appear, and therefore opportunities appear. But what does that mean then? Is someone going to swoop in and buy up that part of the market and still start selling internationally, or will we start looking locally for those resources? I think we're yet to see that emerge.
Yeah.
But so we've got a cap.
And how will everyone kind of freak out a little bit as well? Because I think a friend of mine works for a clothing brand, and she said that in China their stores have reopened and they're calling it, I think it's a bit, oh hello pussycat, I think it's a bit of a misguided term, but they're calling it revenge consumerism, where people are now like, now that the doors are open in China again, they're going out into shops and buying 3 months worth of stuff, you know, all in just a couple of sessions, because they've got the money maybe that they've kept back and they've spent less. So even though they might not be earning as much, they're spending less as well. So there'll be this kind of like, you know, there'll be this graph that goes down like this from a consumer perspective, and then there'll be a massive spike, and then we'll find our new normal. And it's whether businesses are ready, you know, whether they freak out when it goes up and to recognize that that's not sustainable in itself. People just need that transition period, like we had the transition period before Corona, or when Corona first happened, and then we kind of started to settle down. And what can we learn from that first transition period and bring it into the next inevitable one as well?
That's a kind of nice way to put it, actually. With anything like this, you do have that in transition and that out transition, don't you? And I think we need to just be a bit more prepared for that.
I think just on that point, I think
the microphone is
The mic's gone funny again, Aaron.
it's just a thing on my laptop, so
You're hurting everybody.
You're hurting my ears.
right.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good.
You went really quiet, and then it went like really noisy, and then you went quiet again, and you're back to normal.
I wonder if.
I mean, you're sounding fine now.
Yeah,
you're fine now.
Stop him talking.
Yeah, I wonder if. Okay, I think I know what it is. I think it's auto adjusting.
No, it sounds crackly. It's I don't know.
It sounds like something's like touching the mic, as like you're moving your hair or something.
Oh really?
Maybe it's the dreads getting in the way.
Like these are just earphones. Like,
or is the cable not fully in? Is the
Yeah.
cable not fully in?
it's okay now though. Like it literally happens like once every 10 minutes or something, max.
Right, really? Okay.
Yeah, we've distracted you from what you were saying. So
Just don't move, Aaron. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
All
stay
right.
put.
I'll just get a new laptop. Sorry if I hurt anyone's ears then. What I was gonna say is that I think we can I think the best thing we can possibly do coming out of this transitionary period is to remind people of what they did without, and that you don't need X, you don't need Y, that you've got the essentials, but you don't need to jump in the car to do something. You can do with a lot less.
it's amazing what luxuries are. Things we didn't think were luxuries, they are.
And
From a historical perspective on that, though,
Yeah.
Because we've had that before, and people always revert.
They always go back. Yeah.
No,
And I think that's because companies like.
no, I don't think that's the case. I don't think people revert. I think when hello. I think when what happens is when times get better, companies sell more. Like we don't need to be so. We don't need to have FOMO. We don't need to be so consumer focused. We don't need to be so kind of sort of hoarding. Like we don't need these things as humans. They don't serve us other than we have been conditioned over many, many years and generations for this to be our norm. There are many other ways that humans can live. And something like coronavirus, I'm not saying we should spend, 6 and every 7 days at home, but we don't need to buy all the things that we buy. We don't need to drive to all the places we do.
We don't need to. We do so because people crave luxury and reward, and that's built into our.
Yeah, it's the feel-good feeling. I mean, it's if you think about what happened after the war and after the Depression, like that's people were looking for that outlet when they haven't had something. Like, I think that's understandable, but that's when it comes down to that driver of what makes people feel good, but also kind of what do people value. I think from one of the resources that I was quoting, they said that they expect luxury brands to take a massive hit after this, even when people have got the money to spend, and that's because it feels frivolous. That's not to say that people won't then go to Primark and have a massive spend up and spend 3 months worth of money because they can actually go out and they've not bought clothes and they've got people to go and see. Like that's different. But do you really need that designer brand jeans, or actually could you have 3 of these from somewhere else because you feel good, you're happy to do what makes you feel good, not about so the monkey element has gone a little bit if we were to kind of take that psychological model. So the things that are driving us have changed. It'll be different for every kind of industry, but it's going to depend massively, obviously, on what the economy's like when we come out of it too, because at the end of the day, it's sort of kind of luxury cars and luxury handbags aren't necessarily going to be what people can spend their money on, but it's going to feel silly and actually maybe feels a little bit dirty when you consider the sacrifices that people have had to make, because there's a change in social media now.
Yeah, because they're not allowed to, they can't show that much, but that's where advertisers and marketers almost are, they have a greater responsibility and they're more accountable now for directing the consumer mindset. In that, I would say that, Nick, what you said before, I don't, there must be loads of data to suggest that when we go through something like this, then there's a massive kind of elastic band effect. But that's just probably because companies and marketing professionals weren't savvy enough to, and we live in a world of sustainability now as well, where this is a great opportunity for people to actually think about where they, what they want their company to look like, if you like. Maybe they weren't clever enough to think about, because if you advertise to your followers a different message to what you're advertising before, slowly but surely they will follow your new style of advertising, because the only reason they buy into your brand is because of the advertising you've done in the first place.
But it depends if that need driver still has a place. Yeah, if the need driver still has a place in the new world, then that's going to definitely work. Still, so I've just shared an article with you all as a parting gift. I'm sure I could see more of it last time. Maybe I'm supposed to sign into something where there was a chart that showed this is about cutting spend, but it just goes to show that some of our greatest insights, as well as doing everything that I told you to do and understand your own audience and your own business and where it's at, is look back to the last big recession and understand what they saw a peak in as they came out, but obviously it was staged over time, and different markets always come first. But ironically, because we're not in a recession yet, like as in it's the virus that's caused the lockdown. So usually like construction is one of the first things to stop, and it's one of the first things to emerge. But like we're playing it a bit differently. But that's where we're going to kind of learn our lessons from. And this is the article that I just shared talks actually about spend. Even if you take the money out of it, it comes down to presence. You might not have to spend a lot, but if you're investing in your marketing presence, you see a greater return for it. But it might ask, it's from Marketing Week. And I think any articles where you can find that draw a comparison on that type of data is going to be really valuable.
Fantastic. This has been brilliant. I think for the first digital meetup.
Digital, I like it.
I think it's gone quite well. So thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Maddie. Those are really thoughtful, insightful, practical talks. It was absolutely fantastic. I have recorded this, so I'm going to stop recording now. Maddie,
quick, everyone swear.
Yeah. I'm
now
really bad for
actual
that.
authentic selves.
I was just like, did I swear? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're all adults.
Or where everyone's thinking, oh, I didn't know you were recording.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
So yeah, Maddie, because I'm so good at this, I missed the first few minutes of your talk.
Oh,
I messaged him on WhatsApp, Slack, and in the channel, and I was like, Aaron, press record.
You need a video
press
professional.
Yeah, and I'm very good at ignoring the instant messages. So.
I was like, what else can I message him on to tell him to record?
Absolutely unacceptable. Indeed, Gary.
Just publicly in the chat.
Unacceptable, so scary.
You've been shamed.
Yes, I have been. So I'm going to stop cloud recording.